Oh my god, that was really, really good. Everybody, my name is Jessica Holyfield and I'm a professional dance choreographer and dance educator based out of the southeast of the United States, and we are taking a look at Ann Team's Firework. I'm very excited for this for two reasons. First, this is the very first time I'm looking at this group in general. I've heard great things about them, and secondly, this is not just one but two reaction requests affiliated with the group, and this is the first one we're looking at. So shout out to Lauren for one of the two requests. You'll have to find out who did the other one next time. But I cannot wait to get into this. I'm so intrigued. I don't really know much about them outside of knowing that they are a Gen 5 group. Yeah, and I think they were formed from a survival show. I could be making that up, but that's how I feel a lot of groups are made nowadays, and so that's kind of my guess. So without further ado, let's get into it. My precious Oh my gosh. Ooh, that was cool, that was cool. Okay, I think they're a Japanese group, aren't they? That makes sense, because I've heard that this group, I think, was. Oh my gosh, I love this song. Oh my god! Oh my god! Gosh. Oh, so good. Oh, that's good. Oh my god. That was really, really good. Okay, let's look at the music video. Oh my gosh, Lauren, you knew what you were getting me into. Wow. The song is hitting similarly to Rock With You with 17. It hits similarly in that sense for myself. And that's why it's this track is amazing. This may go on my Spotify playlist, not gonna lie. Ooh. Wow. Oh, I do know they are Werewolf is their ism thing, right? Their lore, right? I think. Is she with different guys? Oh, that's so cool! They added confetti to make it look like it's floating flowers! Oh, that's awesome!
Firework, no going back, let me dance, running so fast, 난 대색 날 듯해, I know you're 손안이 부족해, 이거 이제 부족한 날, 내맘 부끄러워, firework, 우리 속삭이는 가리와, 내가 알고는 다 죽었어. Firework.
Oh my god, and there's more. Come on. Like, oh, are they doing like sneak peeks into their next songs? Is that kind of how this works? I know some groups do that. I love it when they do that. Oh man, okay. Dusk. Oh, is he like, his eyes were like werewolf eyes, right? Was he turning? It's about to happen. Is he gonna turn into a werewolf? Let's see. Oh. I don't know when the music video is over. Okay, I think it's over now. Oh my gosh. I really here's the thing. When you really like a song, it can totally change how you receive whatever information they give you that complements the track. So the music video, is there anything necessarily super special about it? I mean, they don't have like a ton of CGI effect, but there's some really cool moments in it. But I feel like partially why I just feel so impacted is because I just really like the track a lot. It threw me completely off guard. I wasn't expecting to enjoy it as much as I did. And choreography wise, I mean, it's so nice to see them really clean. Like that was like butter, you know? And man, I can't wait to talk about this. Okay, firstly, it's a fixed cam. Give it a round of applause. Love whenever I get to see a fixed cam because we get to see the full visuals, and I'm always a fan of that. Okay, here we go. From the top. Lauren, what did you do to me? Okay. The subtlety here, let's count how many people. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So a group of 9. It's a pretty good number. And odd doesn't surprise me. Most of the time, I do expect the first time I look at a group, they're going to operate as an odd number unless they either have a member that has left or just other circumstances. But a lot of times I've been noticing there's more even number groups being debuted. So it's kind of up in the air at this point, but 9 feels good because you're going to have really great symmetry, especially if you do a lot of one-point features. There are groups that are known for more harmonies or like they stack with vocalists, and so it makes sense by them operating with even numbers more. But I digress. My point being, I really like the fact that we're able, like, there was no issue in symmetry or balance because partially comes from just the sheer number of people that you have. I've never seen this group before. I just want to make you aware of that. But golly, did I feel impacted just then. Okay. Just the head rotations, range looks fantastic there. Anytime that you have a starting point and you can tell that it was communicated how long the duration between getting from point A to B is, you're sitting in great company. It's always something that some groups, or not groups, but sometimes people just kind of neglect or they don't realize is a really good element to learn to clean, getting the range, not just your timing, and that was really nice. And I love how they ended up creating a connection out of it. So using the head to kind of promote the momentum of the body to get over into a different formation that ends up having one person subtly disappear into the formation, which is really cool. You also can tell that they're pressing up onto, it does appear like the outside of the thigh and kind of where the calf is as well. It's a nice little prop, and also you can tell that they are balanced right here between their feet, but mostly they're using their shin to kind of leverage their weight. And then it also feels like they also have their hand as they're connecting down on the ground to complement and create a balance between the foot and the upper body. So that's really cool. Such a cool setup. And then they just, ooh, beautiful ripple just to get them to do a little roll onto their bottoms to come up. And I love the subtlety, the intention of just one person not really doing anything. Very subtle. And then he ends up just little trotting action. Everybody goes and they reset up. Boom, all that guitar. Oh man, this is so, I really, really, really like this track a lot. It has a nostalgia effect to it for myself because, like I said, it does remind me of the Rock With You, and I knew of that song before I even knew of 17, if that makes sense. So it's that has a nostalgic factor to me because I, listened to it before I even, got started into the Just Reacts side of things. And it has a gregarious vibe about it, so a happier tone, but it actually has more of like weighty lyricism, and so it feels deeper than just, it's not plushy or like cushioned. It feels real or authentic to some degree. I don't know how real this is for them, but I love it. I love it so much. So I love they go down, the subtlety right there where they're pulling from the back with the chest, really nice. And I love the subtle look there, not even really looking at them directly, very kind of indirect, but you can tell that the attention is peripherally to each other, which is cool. From here, the walks, that boom, boom, doom, doom, really big. And that right there, such a surprise. Hey, boom, they jump, and then right here into a beautiful formation where you can't even tell that they were separated at all. So cool. And then from there, boom, da 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 da. Ah, there's that piano, right? That piano, it does feel very retro, very 90s influence too. Hence why it could feel very nostalgic on top of it for myself, in my cultural background with music. And from here, I love the canon from that. So a canon is different than a ripple, because I did mention a ripple. A ripple is one movement that everybody has a different timing on. A canon is a sequence of movements. So just a choreographic phrase that has a different start and finish time, which is what you're seeing here. So it's a two-part move. So they do an arm rotation and then they slide it out using the outside leg to create a sense of opposition and every other. So you're actually able, by doing that, to have a nice clear shot of what's going on in the back. You can technically do that by having everybody go to the same direction, but I think this is so cool. Love it. I love that rotation there, and he does a nice little, undercut with the chest and allowing his body to move forward. Really cool. Boom, boom. I really love that subtle rebound on that. So cool. Then taking it through. Guys, this is so freaking clean. I love it. Okay, so they go back and then notice that they have more of a twisting going on with the leg. It is subtly polyrhythmic because of a completely different aesthetic in the upper body, or texture in the upper body. And texture, what I mean in movement, is how something feels to the eyes. It's a great way to word it. It's, you know, just like texture with eating, it's the feeling. In this case, you can think emotion, you can think dynamics. A lot of times it's discussed here where it's talked about fast and slow, so your timing, your space, how much space you take up, inflation, deflation. You can also talk about emotions are a really huge factor, because if you're showcasing a sense of tension or strife, you're going to showcase that physically, which if you study psychology, you're able to kind of find more correlation between behaviors and movement overlap. And so in this context here, I really love the choices of kind of becoming a little smidgen polyrhythmic in how the texture of the upper body. So going back to that, it's definitely more weighty than what's going on in the lower body. It's trying to match what's going on the track of the back. That with the leg, right there on the vocals, and then the accent down with that arm. Really cool. Notice everybody's head. It feels like we have so much thoroughness in our cleaning. So shout out to whoever's in charge of that. Wonderful job. And the discipline for them to be able to fine tooth comb clean it. Because I'm going to tell you right now, it doesn't matter how long a group's been together. I would say 17 is a great example too. It doesn't matter how long you've been together. Yes, you're going to have a huge implicit posture about how you do choreography with people, with each other. The longer you're with a group, the more likely you are to have some overlapping fingerprints of movement quality, which really helps in K-pop groups, J-pop groups, dance studio groups. When you see a group of elite level dancers or rec dancers compete for a long time together, they're going to have a sense of presence and they know how to communicate physically with each other, right? So my point being, like, there's still a lot of discipline here. This is a Gen 5 group, right? So much discipline in play here. Like, this is incredible to admire. I am such a fan. We may need to 0.75 it just out of courtesy, just make sure I don't miss anything. This is so fantastic. And right there, notice, I'm glad I slowed it down, because you notice with waves, a lot of times when I see this type of wave, whether they're setting it up above their head, they're fixed pointing it, things like that, with this type of movement, a lot of times people get disconnected with what's going on with the fingers. So I love the fact that we got to very clearly see that. We got to see where the starting point was. It was right there by that elbow, and finishing out equal on both sides. So I'm really a fan of that. And they take the energy and the weight, and then they're going to pull their energy to the floor to create a beautiful level difference, but it's still a transition. So fascinating. And I love the fringe gives it away, just how engaged they are with the head. Incredible. And then from there, different formation, really nice. The crossover is very clear. You can tell. You have some of them that are, directionally facing a different way with the torso, but it's so freaking specific. That's kind of the only discrepancy I have seen so far. And by having a different torso shift, you can tell that some of their feet are not quite crossed to the same part of the space in their own, if they were given a box, where directionally that would be in their own personal box. So I don't know if that was intentional or not. I think that's just what happens, but then notice they kind of reset by doing the accent with the head and will walk. That's really nice. They pull it through, really cool. Head here, and then notice they keep that head locked to the side, so they've made their head a fixed point. And when I talk about fixed points, it's in miming, pantomiming is when you see this a lot of times under the boogaloo styles. If you want to go street style context, where there is a part of space where a body part is occupying, and by moving, that part stays right where it is, essentially, right? So that's really cool that you notice the head. What makes that captivating is they're technically spotting, and spotting is whenever you see people do turns. Figure skating, they don't spot, but when you watch dancers, especially ballet dancers, when they're doing like a la secondes, fouettes, or they're doing pirouettes, you're noticing that their head snaps to a very specific spot in the space. So they're technically spotting in this case, where their head is glued to the side, but they end up creating a nice little rotation through, and they snap it to reset to that side. And wherever you look is where your body's going to directionally want to go after you finish. So that was so freaking fascinating to be able to see that here. Then you have a nice boom. Notice with my feature, everybody else has frolicked away. Feature, boom, love it. Snaps his head up to catch my attention. Very well done there. Boom, boom, da 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 da. Really nice, going from a single finger to a whole hand. It's building, it's progressing. It kind of feels like, I'm assuming there's going to be a lot of firework imagery or explosion, accented energy in play here, whether it's through posture, the staging formations, because firework, and of course there's a werewolf lore somewhere in here. So there's a chance I may overlook some stuff because I'm coming right in the middle of whatever they've been developing. during their time as a group, but man, oh man, I am, as you can tell, I'm having a wonderful time walking through this. At 0.75, that little firework, so cool. Notice how we twinkle it and kind of feels like one of those like sparkly kind of fireworks going from pinky to index. Then he rotates it through, boom, one of our other members pops out to create a fun accent, and it feels more like a shadow effect. Really cool. And that right there turns into a fun accented add-on where they're kind of posing in a particular pose that kind of makes it feel like he's, those filters on TikTok or Snapchat or YouTube or whatever, where, it has somebody who's running and then there's like a picture that floats down and then they match the picture, if that makes sense. It's just a filter. I don't know the best way to word it because I've never really used it, but that's what that feels like, is that whenever he goes and he strikes the pose, boom, that pose stays where it is and he moves somewhere else. I really love those effects, and it's very fun and tasteful with who he has doing it, and you can even tell what works with it is their angles are committed to the exact degree. Just your other dancer that's complimenting behind him is just lower, but the angle is the same, and that's how it's very easy to tell what we're going for. That's so cool. And then it goes, notice that, there's a little extension happening with the hands. Then from here he goes around, boom, take the chest, the pull through with the twinkle. My God, so cool. Boom, da da da. So notice partially what makes this work is those that are lifting him are not looking at their feet and they're not looking at him, because it ups the level of difficulty, because they have to trust that where their feet are where he is stepping. So when they lift him, he's able to be lifted. He has to have good stability. You can tell with his right arm, it is onto one of the member's shoulders. Really great way to maintain balance, because that's going to help with your consistency in that lift to not make it look like a liability. And that's another really big thing here, is I don't see any issues in how their stability is tested throughout the routine. And sometimes you can tell when there's groups or when there's choreography being done, and you kind of get a little anxious whenever they try more difficult tricks, but a lot of it comes from they're not showcasing stability in the simple things. So how can they have stability safely in the complex things is what we project in our heads. And sometimes that does happen, but my point being, in these types of little accented moments, a lot of their jumps and turns and things are so stable, and the cleanliness really helps advocate and justify it. So when they have these extra outlier choices, it makes us have a sense of comfort, and we can really appreciate the full picture without, wondering, I'm wondering if they're gonna fall over. Like, I didn't think for a second he was gonna fall over, even though they're looking away. I just love the conversational, like, this is nothing, lifting him up in a fun, outlier way in the middle of a phrase. That's so cool. And then you have your dancers over on stage right coming in on the scene. Yeah, they go, and he drops down and they slide away. I love that there's this little extra breath before they go off. New feature. He has this little moment here, and then I love this, the commitment of our guys that just had their feature. They all branch away, branch off, and then you have your new group come in. The hop, the triple, ta da da da. Notice they're slowly bringing in that back leg before they're about to accent it, and they tap it through. Really love that. Notice they have a chest opposition, so it really feels more full in the crossover than if they just neutralized it. Really cool. I love that we're intentional with complementing with the hands and the arms. Accent there with the chest. Love it. Pick up the right foot. Boom. Notice the fullness. Really accent that bass in that moment. Keeps my attention. Love to see it. Then that slide through, and then we take it and we slap it and clap it around, and a little snap, not snap, but that snap accented arm extension right there with that crash in the back. Really nice. And then from there, they use the leg, boom, to make this arm complement and feel a little bit more than what it is. Because if we just looked at the arm as it went over and we didn't think about that leg complementing it, it would just feel a little bit isolated, overly isolated, not as engaged with the full body. And because of the type of track it is, you have a little bit of like lighter sounds, lighter tones, really nice vocals depending on who's singing. I mean, so far all of them sound great. Like, there's not a single person that sounds awkward. That's another reason why I like the track, is that it doesn't feel labored to hear, or I don't have to get over somebody's tone or somebody's vibrato, or, let's be honest, we all have preferences and who we listen to, and for me, tone does play a huge role in whether or not I'm going to enjoy a track. In this case so far, I mean, I love the track a lot. Like, love it. This is amazing. This is probably gonna be my first Japanese track I have on my Just React Spotify playlist, and rightfully so. Insane. So cool. I digress. But having the accent with the leg makes it feel more full, feels like the full body is getting involved, which makes it complement what's going on in the music, where you have more of those undertones, you have more of those upper tones, like more like deeper sounds with that pulse going on in the percussion, and you have these little lighter piano retro sounds. And because you have these two, not opposing, but they're complementing on different parts of your sound production, having movements that cater to that are really helpful. And a lot of times, choreographers, myself included, tend to use their feet when we're talking about more grounded movement. It helps because your feet are on the ground. And when you think about grand staff, higher notes are going to be higher on the grand staff, and lower notes are going to be on the lower end, because you have your treble clef and bass clef. Bass clef is below the treble clef. So when you think, okay, if it's a low sound, I'm going to want to use my legs, which is the lower part of my body. So that's just kind of like if you've ever noticed it, that could be one overlapping reason why some movements make sense. But I digress. From there, super cool. I love that accent there. Hey, notice I think some of them do have their elbow just a smidgen higher. These are such minimal observations, though. I have it at 0.75. These are such accents. There's so much going on in a very short amount of time. So these types of things are things that are not priority to clean as effectively as your head, but also you have to think in the moment. This could be right in the middle of a transition, depending on where you are in the formation, and your timing can affect your angle ever so slightly. They're not robots, they're humans, so you can only be so clean. Even the cleanest in the world, it's gonna, you're gonna have some of these discrepancies, whether it's through the fingers or through the arms, but golly, that's so minimal in the grand scheme of things. I love it. I love the subtlety where you just have your feature in that moment, and then we're creating it as an add-on, meaning that we're adding more members into it, into the same phrasing of choreography. Really nice, and we're pulsing, boom. Not really a pulse, but we're definitely building and creating tension in the core and in the torso there. And then we do a nice shoulder accent there. As we pop it over to the side, notice that we have that ribbon play that's going the opposite direction as what our leg is doing. That's really fun. It definitely makes it, there's a lot of this going on in a great way. Makes your movement look more full with minimal difference between not using it and using it in a physicality demand sense. That little pull, we go, we move through, and now we have everybody there. I love my feature. He's the lowest, but notice his pull and just the commitment to drop to the ground. That naturally made me want to look at him, and it makes sense because he's my feature, because he's the lowest point, and they're all about to start building up on top of it. God, I love that. A beautiful connection, and then we all accent. Gotta love the French to give it away. Love the commitment. And he's the only one looking. And then everyone goes boom, and they really take that energy. They're still connected, but it feels accented, or it feels like a big sound wave just got slapped in the face. It's so cool. And then from there, the extra step. That's what I love. Like, this feels like I'm listening to the bass in physical form. This is one of the best examples of musicality that we can talk about, is this right here. You hear that bass, it goes boom, and it's residual. So what's really nice is their fringe and their step, boom, as they hit. It feels like there's a ricochet because of the collective power of everybody committing to the same degree. It makes me feel impacted longer. I love that choice so freaking much. And then notice we have this extra movement that's going on. It's so subtle, not a priority, and it's not a focal point. I would say my feature is, because there's so subtlety of movement, but this big accent into this really tense traveling through from point A to point B with everybody to the same degree sells that easily. Really cool. And then right there, boom, they throw it. So notice that we're building up the energy, we're framing the formation to the outside. You still have your feature that's facing us, really cool. We take it, boom, accent with the shoulder, we drop down. We are no strangers to switching between standing and the floor. Like, we're going, pew, pew, pew. That is impressive. You can tell they're rookies, because rookies pull a lot of that. You look at a lot of rookie years from a lot of these veteran groups, they don't go to the floor nearly as much anymore. Stray Kids is a great example. Their most recent comeback ain't like Thunderous, but in the best complimentary way. I think that's fine. But Thunderous, they were hanging out on the floor a lot. So, oh man, it was tiring to do, but I enjoyed it. But I really love that the subtlety. Notice he had his hand, and it felt like he was still connected with what was going on with the rest of the members, but they were all slowly coming up. God, that's so cool. The accent there, boom. I love how they all took it. They took that upper body, just because we've been seeing that opposition from our torso and our legs. Whenever we see that hit, boom, to the inside, towards our frame, like framing towards our feature. Really well done. Then right there, he takes it, boom, and it's like he just pulled like not fire alarm, but you know, like a, not even a grenade. It feels something that has a tassel and you just pull the tassel, right? And it just causes everybody to rotate around. So cool. Maybe like skydivers when they pull a parachute. That's the kind of pull that we're seeing here, and it causes this really cool trigger effect with the rest of the members in the hinge. And once again, range matters. How they go from point A to point B, start, finish, they're all going at the same rate, and that's what makes it clean. Really cool. I love that choice. Boom, bring it back to front. Really fun. Then from here, boom, and then they go and they hop it back. Really cool. And the commitment all the way through to the knee. Very well done. You take it out, boom. They're down, they come up. Gosh, I feel like I'm still missing stuff when we're at 0.75. I'm not gonna go any slower or we'll never get done, but I love that, the subtlety, boom, boom. It really feels like our lower body is hitting on a completely different wavelength in terms of sound, what we're justifying in the upper body, which is a prime example of polyrhythms. Polyrhythm is 2 or more rhythms that are that happen at the same time that are different, and that is exactly where you see a lot of advanced level choreography that's just derived from content. You always see a ton of polyrhythms in play, and hip hop and street styles are polyrhythmic by nature. This is not hip hop, but it is hybrid choreography where you see some influences of a little bit of house, a little bit of boogaloo fundamentals. You have some waving in here. It's very tasteful, and it's very relevant to the times, and it feels also, I mean, they're not doing too much on the track either. They're showcasing the beauty of unison by being clean. It's so cool. That part there, boom, notice the twinkling, and this totally complements what's going on because we've seen a lot of that fold into to showcase fireworks through other features. Really cool. Then we take it through, boom, notice we have that heel pop up from some of them. Not everybody did, but our feature did. Boom, and it really created a fun accent punctuation to the end of the phrase. And they took it through, boom, and then they bring that leg in, they shoot it back out, and it causes a trigger for our torso to go to a new position. And they take their hand up to the forehead, really nice. And from here, naturally fold it over to the side, and then we throw those arms up and we pray. Once again, noticing at the end of all of these accents, there's tension, there's this pull that's happening. That's why this course matches very well what we did in that huge little ripple effect of that sound wave bass that I talked about earlier. That all matches because they're going accent to tension. They're not really being still. I mean, the very beginning kind of, but there's so much of this tense breath that's taking place that justifies the weightiness of what they're talking about, but there's a lot of full out energy to justify the gregarious track in the sound production. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. Okay, God, it's so fun. This right here, this is definitely a house move. Oh my gosh, it's a sweep in the air is what we would equate that to. I really love the fullness of it and the commitment from everybody on that too. Really nice. And notice that second one, boom, boom. They took that arm, rotated around, and then they put the feet more on the ground, slid. I think they ended up sliding them, right? Boom. Yeah. Boom. Ta. Then they take it. It does feel, was that a pas de bourrée that they did just then? Let me see. Yeah, that was a pas de bourrée to get out of it. So they did like a sweep in the air and the accent pas de bourrée, but they still have arms. The arms connected the sweep to the pas de bourrée, going from in the air to the ground because they took the arms and they fully extended them. So I really like that bridge of movement to where it feels like one phrase, because it technically is. It's so cool. And then from there, boom, and then they take it, they grab the hips, or they grab at the base of the pant, they take it, bring it up, boom, and then right here, ooh, and they bring it up. Notice that heel twist, and they're letting the chest isolate with the heel. They're not letting other things be influenced too much. They're keeping it in its lane, but going as full out as it can and accenting with the arms accordingly to make it feel like a conversation. That part right there, they do a little shampoo is what we would call that through. We present that hand out, boom, and we take those arms, that swing through, and then we immediately lift that right leg. This part here, I love this choice with the leg, boom, boom. It does feel, I knew in class, this is the only thing that I felt firsthand with this move. So I'm not on TikTok or anything like that. Some things that are from TikTok that get uploaded to YouTube Shorts is when I would see them. But there's this move right here where they take the leg. A lot of my students at one of the studios I work for do that a lot. So I'm gonna assume it comes from a social media background of just a thing that happens. And I put it in choreo before because it is fun. It's a fun move. But I really love the tension, bum, bum, to really help showcase some degree of tone. That's so cool. Yeah, bum, bum, bum. They let the torso and the upper body complement to the same degree of the swing of the leg. Really cool. Then right here, and notice, ooh, they didn't just stay up and use the chest up. They leaned back. And that's a very impressive thing because I'm not used to seeing that type of degree of commitment when you rock to the back like that. So I think my guy right here did a really great job of that. So let's look. Do. Yeah, boom, boom. And that is not on, like, it's offbeat. Does that make sense? Dun, dun, dun. Like, it's not on a solid count. That's like in between the accents of the track. Like, that's crazy. Like, you're gonna want to go, like, your brain predictably would expect them to go on the da na 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 because that deviates from the bum 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 that we just heard, right? But that's not what they did. They went dun dun dun. They kept with the rhythm and not technically ignored what happened with the tone or the rhythmic shift. They recognized it, but they were riding through what they had set up just then. Like, those are really risky and those are really hard to clean because they have to have some degree of understanding what they're listening for. And I have noticed artists tend to do a better job of understanding musicality than dancers sometimes, because a lot of times in the educational system, because I can only attest to the American studio scene, there is not a huge representation of proper music education for dancers. It's kind of separate. Like, in school they learn about music, but they don't learn about it nearly as effectively in the dance space as much as they should. So they understand the why behind music choice to emotion that they're being asked to present in choreography. But that's a whole completely different side topic. My point being this: there are certain things that I am able to appreciate in choreos like this and many others, where there's certain choices that are made that to the degree of cleanliness it is, they have to be on the same page on exactly what they're listening for, because you can't just guess stuff like that. You all have to be on the same page, and that is a lot harder to do than you think it is. It is. It's a lifelong journey, and the more experience you have in understanding your music and relating it to your movement, the more better off you're going to be as an artist in the physical sense, from personal lived experience and from training dancers. That's just an underlying thing I've noticed. Moving on from there, that was really cool. And from there, boom, from here, they take the legs, they rotate, they shift the weight over to the left side, and then they send that hand up, boom. Notice once again, accent to tension. That is our go-to texture in this routine, and that's why it just works so cool. Then da 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 da, so they're building it. Notice the arm is bent, the other one is straight, and they're complementing in opposition. Do 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 do. Cool. And they throw it through like we just did a milli rock, but there was no milli to be found. They just rocked it, and from there, I love that boom. So instead of staying, like a lot of times you would just see that, they just hit it boom, like an accent. They're accenting through things that I normally am used to seeing people pose at. So what I mean by that is they are accenting, recognizing the pose exists, clean enough for everybody to showcase that pose, click, picture moment, boom, but they're able to come out of it. The transitions matter so much in this choreo, and I'm starting to notice that more and more, that transitions are getting their time to shine and they're a priority and focal point. I love the fact that we get to talk about what we're talking about. The content's cool, but what makes it cool is the transitions and accents through the content. That's amazing. And then right here, I love the commitment. That is really cool and definitely more of a risk, because just the quickness and then the hinge, the reliability on other people. The more you have to rely upon others, the riskier it's going to be that things will fall apart. What if they miss the hand? They're going down, they're dropping. So I love that the quickness to get into our choices. Transitions are a priority. How they're getting into stuff really matters here, because the content's cool, but if the setup was a surprise, it makes me think the content's cooler, which is what I'm seeing here. Features in the center, very clear to see him because everybody else is not looking towards us, not even close to looking at us. Our feature is looking downcast, but I can see because he's also a completely different level than everybody else, and you can see the commitment, and they did a pretty good job keeping it kind of, it's balanced, but it's not mirrored, if that makes sense. It's not symmetrical, but it's balanced, where you have the same number of people that are representing each given level, but you still have your center person very clear to see. That little bang bang, notice he did a pop. Pop is an explosion of a muscle group, and it comes from the style popping, and that's what he did. Very nice on the wordplay and on the physical movement to interpret it. Good job. The firework, once again, fire, so that's going to be our go-to, firework. We see the twinkling in, really nice. Then there's our speed change, really nice on the hinges. Those are tricky to do. The more people you have trying to do it, the more range you got to get in check, and range is harder to clean than A and B cleaning. Like it is, because it's something that's not talked about nearly as much as other elements of your cleaning process. Super dope. I love my feature. He has a nice little moment that complements what we just did in the course, but it just feels different because it's only one person and not 9. It's nice. From there, boom, boom, notice my feature. He takes it, he has a fist, and he takes that fist up, so it's not really, he could kind of do anything with his hand, but I like the fact it's a fist because it feels like he has a firmer control over what's going on. Because sometimes when you pick something up with 2 fingers versus an entire hand, there's going to be more power in the influence of what you're lifting. So in this case with my guy, he lifts with the fist, and so that's why it feels stronger, in that it's more clear what's going on in that accent, and that's why it felt like a firm reset to the top. Cool. Then right there, boom, really nice, using the chest to help accentuate what's going on in this scoop, because the scoop is subtly different than the first one we saw, and I think it's because of that chest. And then we got it right back again, so he's just traveling through what they're doing. And I like how he grabbed, he like kind of tapped and initiated one of our guys who ends up being our next feature, because he ends up running like 2 really big runs, and then he drops down. He's still my feature here. They're walking on tempo, way to go. So really good on the formation side, knowing where logistically it works for my previous feature to be at. Whoa, that is not correct. And for my new feature to infiltrate. Really nice. He turns up, really nice, and then we're in 2, it looks like we're in 2 columns, but we're not. We're in partners. That's cool. Hit, it's cool. So they go diagonal and then they grab. Notice, they can't see each other. You can tell that some of them don't quite have a great shoulder flexibility because they're poking their head forward, and that helps you compensate for the lift in the back. So that's always a goal I always strive to with groups, is try to get everybody on the same page on their shoulder flexibility. Now there's some groups, or there's some members of groups that have like hyperextension in their shoulders, and so they have the opposite problem where they have the flexibility but not the strength to hold it. Most of the time people have too much strength, not enough flexibility, and they go hand in hand. They're so important together in these types of instances, because if I lift up and I have the strength to hold this position even without my partner, and I have the flexibility to keep my head up so I can do whatever I'm asked to do, those moments are really going to allow your choreographer to have more freedom in how they want you to come across in the choreo, but also it gives you the freedom to do it correctly. So I love that. And then from there, I love that. And notice they weren't looking either. And that's what ups the complexity of just that simple partner motion. It's because they're not looking when they're making the choice. They're literally just trusting that their range is in check with their partners. That's why range matters, or how you get to that position matters. Then from there, they take it, they rotate it around, they take it, boom, and then they release each other, and they grab once again, and they pull back in. And I like how he's making it a moment where he's dragging to make it feel like he's trying to get closer to. They're naturally getting closer to each other because of the pull. Right there. And then we have 2 of them. The throws were a smidgen off. That's one of the first times I'm really seeing an actual off throw. 1 move in a minute 34. Like, whatever. That's so cool. So you had your feature. He was here, and then you have 2 that are added on right here. Everyone else is trotted away. Goodbye. And you have 2 that are up with a throw. Cool. They take it through a little kick, where they lift the legs up in the transition in the windows, and then now everybody has their arms up but my feature. I always say features are allowed to modify or progress because they're the feature, and they're allowed to deviate, and if anything, by them deviating helps us be able to see them better, especially if everyone is doing the same choreography in the same places. So that's something that I like seeing, even though he was a little bit more, not droopier, but a little bit more fatigued in the choice. That it was easier for me to see him in that moment. Everybody else has now lowered their heads. He's up, click, 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 click. I really love the quickness because I said quick, 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 right? I like the pattern in which he got into that. It feels complementary to the 4 people he had around him. So cool. He takes it, boom, nice accent with the head and taking those elbows to the side. I love that. They're looking down. Once again, head matters. Where they're looking helps us know who our feature is continued to be, unless everyone's supposed to face front. So he's thrown. And then from here, he's able to turn. Everybody, a couple people have joined in. New feature, nice little surprise moment. He's the only one looking at us. Very clear example of that's the guy I need to look at because he's looking at me. So it feels courteous, right? Everyone takes their arms out. Notice the stylized hand. It's not a blade, it's not a fist, but they have a little bit more open. Super cool. And from here, I like this choice where one of them like connects down and one connects up, and he creates a sense of opposing force for both hands. It feels more of a surprise. Normally you see it mirrored, but they did opposite, and he complemented it but still keeping eye contact with us, which was nice. Then he hits to the side, and then we've now added 2 more to create a fun accent, and it kind of feels like we're turning into that little bass just sounds like an explosion. It sounds like a firework, right? And I really appreciate that type of pulse in the track. So cool. Boom, boom, boom. Notice the angles. It kind of felt like we were creating one big firework moment there. They take it up and then they drop it down. I really like the fullness. You can tell with some of them they have both knees out to the side. My policy with knees is I always say it's safer long term if your knee follows the track of the foot, especially when you do like bridge recovers. I noticed that in a lot of choreos, not in this one specifically, but a lot of times you see dancers, they take their knee and it kind of inverts to the inside. Now there are some styles and there's some movements where you can safely do that. In this case, that is something that you can be susceptible to hurting long term if you do not have the proper strength or flexibility to back it. So in my case with my guy right here, I love the choice, but I do not know, however, if he's putting a lot of pressure on the inside of that knee. Sometimes people do, but you can tell his foot is facing close to that direction, so that's why I feel a little bit more reassured. You can also tell, look where his knee is, look where his foot is. Look where his knee is, look where his foot is. So I appreciate the fact that even in the cleaning process or how they're doing the movements, it does feel like we have some sense of consciousness behind where the knee needs to be or where that foot needs to be to make the knee do what it needs to do. So that's really cool. I like safety, and that also reiterates the point I made earlier about I don't feel so concerned about what I'm watching, because whenever I'm seeing, you know, I have it paused and I'm able to have great confidence that a lot of them have really good knee to foot alignment. That makes me feel like, okay, when they do lifts or they do jumps, they're not landing with too much pressure going to the inside of the knee, or they have proper safety measures in place physically with their body to bail out of something difficult and not hurt themselves. So I really love that. Those little details of what I talked about are things that sometimes judges look for. Like I'm talking about Grand Prix, right? With YAGP, right? Ballet is what I talk about. That they're very precise in that way. But I'm not saying what I specifically talked about is relevant to that, but I'm saying how fundamentally deep you can go. Those types of things can be adjudicated in that sense. And the fact that I'm even able to talk about it with a freaking J-pop group is wild to me. Oh my gosh, so cool. And they take it through. Notice that push of the energy, and notice where they went with it. They went to the floor. Your dancer did too, and he very quickly and seamlessly was able to get out of that middle. Somebody else was able to enter the chat, decided, and then they continued it. They didn't just stay down and then they got up. They stayed down, transitioned up. So their transitions are very complex, and that's what makes this feel difficult, because it is. These transitions are not easy to do cleanly, and that's what we're seeing. That's amazing. The accent there, boom, I really love that choice. Super cool. Subtlety here, they take the arm, they branch it down. Really cool. Nice connection with everyone. The pull, boom, I love that pull. So cool. Boom, boom, I love the pulse once again. They throw, no, love the little speed change here. Hitting it through, boom, love the accent with the leg. Nice, compliments to the inside. Notice that setup. I've talked about this in a couple instances. We'll talk about it here. Whenever you do the same content, but you structure it differently, which is exactly what we see here. It's a different formation. Some of the choices or where they're choosing to create these accents come and originate in different directions. Those types of things are smarter, not harder to me. In my head, when I look at choreo, I see that you're using what their bodies are naturally already exposed to in the track, and it makes it feel on brand with what you've already established in concept and in movement quality, and you're changing a direction, so you give me a different vantage point to digest and help me appreciate what I'm really looking at. So I love that setup there. The hinge is great. I love how he sets it up. He takes it around the back. It is a little different than the last one that we saw. That was cool. A nice little brush there, and here we go. We're prepping once again. We kick it back in the tuck, tucking at the feet, hitting it through, boom, love that. Subtlety here, boom, boom, we reset the hand, going from fist to a stylized hand. Those subtleties really help create a nice little I call it an ornament, embellishment. I know music has those in certain cases. I like calling those these things because it's so subtle, but it does change how we perceive it visually. So nice. Twinkling it in, just like the firework imagery, we drop it down, boom. Love the rebound here. So they're using the core to stop what they're doing, but a lot of visual cues we can give is imagine that you're slamming your shoulders into a wall and it's forcing you to come back down. Would be a nice little kinesthetic, feeling-based kind of analogy I would use. Take it through. I love that little sunshine moment. Cool. The pull there, once again, the kick through, same thing of what we've seen before. It's just a subtly different formation potentially. It's just so captivating that I don't mind seeing it again. I do talk about this, at least in the Western music culture scene, the power of threes when it comes to repeatability. Because of how they did the pre-chorus, it didn't really feel like we repeated, even though we did repeat some content sequences, but the direction was different, so it didn't feel the same. And that's the kind of stuff that a lot of times, if you end up repeating the same thing done the same way 3 times, people tend to get pretty bored, right? Because you want to entertain some sense of unpredictability, but it still complements what you're doing. So in this case, they did that. They did technically the same content, but the structure of the formation was different. And in this case here, it's the same formation, ideally, kind of, for the most part. Like, I can't really tell you there's a significant difference, so we'll say it's similar. And it's the same content, so we're now doing it for 2. The best idea is for them to not do the course the same way again, or it's going to lose its luster the way, if that kind of makes sense. It's not going to feel this as captivating in the way that it could stay and maintain if you just kept it at 2 versus 3. So that's more of a side note. I don't believe they end up doing the course exactly the same 3 times. I think they deviate or do something different in their choices, which is totally fine. Or I would have said something a lot earlier, is what my gut tells me. But I digress. I love seeing it again. It's just cool. It's just cool choreo. It's nice. Subtlety there. This feels like a different formation. It feels more open. So I'm going to go off of that. Also, oh my God, that range on that hand, that was so cool. That was cool. But notice the formation is a shape of an X. It definitely showcases more diagonals. When you see an animated firework, a lot of times you see a lot of diagonals in play. It's not just linear, right? Those you would see sometimes stars would have more of like that linear look. In this case here, I love the fact that we're seeing and entertaining a lot of diagonals because that helps justify firework in a formation sense. I think that's cool. Presenting out, I love that. Swinging it through, same thing as we've seen before. No, different formation, so there's that. Love it. Da-na-na-na. It's not da-na-na-na-na. It's da-da-da-da-da. It's we're hitting like the off. It's like, I guess you would call it syncopated, right? Because it's not on a count. Like, that is the most offbeat thing I think I've seen in a long time, and that was so well done. Like a focal point offbeat. Like, that's hard to do if your brain wants to hit a certain part of the music so bad and they go off of it and it still works, but in your head you just keep predicting. You can get ahead of yourself in that sense. So those who ever learned this, I wonder if that was a tricky part for you, was because it's so on the offbeat, but it works so well because it fills in the space in which there's nothing going on. It's cool. You and I, we branch it over to the side. Da-na-na-na, nice, we take it. And then we have our feature. He takes it and love his tension once again. Facing us, everybody else faces the back, away from us. That was the first little like pedestrian swing of the arm down that I've seen. It's really cool. I don't mind it because they've justified cleanliness out the wazoo. So I tend to be more forgiving whenever you show competency at a high level. I'm more forgiving when you deviate or you show more individuality, right? Sometimes it's you earn to be extended like more grace in that. And here's the thing, this is a dance practice. They really didn't need to go this clean, but I love the fact that they did, so we can just admire it. Like, I admire this so much. This is so cool. A nice little punch right there, bang, bang. Everybody else is running to the back. Very different than the first time they did the setup. So I like those choices. On a formation side, they did a great job. Yeah, da-da-da-da-da, really cool. This part, this made me just subtly emotional because of the commitment of my feature. So they have their feet propped up, as you can see. He puts his weight on them. The reliability and trust that I see here made me believe what they're doing so much more. And that is commitment to your character. Regardless if they're playing a character or this is lived experience for them as dancers, and I'm speaking about this from a dance context, and I know they're performers that sing, understand that. I'm just talking about the dance excerpt of it. They can justify singing live, whatever. In this case here, if a dancer does not commit 100% to what they're doing, how do you expect your viewer to commit to watching and admiring and being captivated by it 100%? It's not fair. That's not how it works. The more you commit and more you believe in what you're doing, the more likely those that are watching are going to follow suit. So in the case here, I feel that he committed 100%, because if they drop those feet out, he is going to the floor. He put his weight on those feet. It's not a courtesy. That is they are holding him up. That is so impressive, and the control they have. It feels so communal because it's not just 1 foot. It's like 4 feet. Nope, it's 3. They have to be on the same page to make sure he stays committed the way that he has and he doesn't drop out on any side. That really got to me in a great way, where I felt very touched by this one moment right here. Of course, on top of the other cleanliness moments, and I just see the thoroughness and the preparation. I love the hard work, and I love the mirroring that's going on the sides. Definitely feels balanced. Oof. And he's balanced right there. And right there, boom, and they take him over to the side. That feels like a preference choice. And sorry, he's not even on the freaking ground at all. I thought he had his feet on the ground, he put his whole upper body on the ground. They lifted his legs, and now he is completely at the mercy of his members. That's called trust. I believe that. You know, like, that's amazing. Dun, dun, dun. Like, this just feels too, if you want to be humorous about it, you know how, like, fathers can, like, hold their children and they're, like, playing Superman. It kind of feels like that, where they're all, like, holding him up to do a fun Superman moment. But it's kind of like being in the sky, which helps tie into fireworks. Where do they go? They're in the sky whenever they explode. If they're on the ground, that's dangerous and you can set things on fire. So in the sky we go. So I love that imagery there. That is so impressive. Notice he went all the way. He looked down. He could low-key fall over onto their faces. Has that happened before? Maybe. I don't know. But he comes right back up. Bump, 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 and he drops it over, drops down. I love this rotation over to the side. So cool. He throws and explodes it. Really nice choice. This right here, he's in fists, and he waves it, and I could see the fluidity through the freaking fist. I love that. And I also, what really helps sell it is we have one of our guys have his head complement what's going on, and he's having a weight shift to complement the direction of the wave that's going on from our feature. So if you look here, notice my lower level guy, he stays down, he just scoots back to provide space. Everybody else is nice and still. He waves through, and he goes da 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 da. So he lets his head snake, and then the snake creates a point of entrance for his wave. Whoa! And then you have others subtly set up, and then from there, ooh, what happens to this wave? I think my only note, though, is it kind of feels like my second guy started at the wrist, where I really think he should have had an extra lift in the fist before he transitioned over. And the knee slide, I love me a good knee slide. I saw those all over Stray Kids tracks, and I just marathoned them, hence why I do bring them up pretty often. They knee slide out the freaking wazoo. Bless those knees and bless those boys. But I digress. I really love this choice. You have a group of 5. They've all moved over to the side. Boom, boom. My feature, he's the only one who doesn't drop the head. Very clear for me to see who he is. And I also say this too. Just because you're in the center doesn't mean you're going to captivate my attention. I can have somebody over on stage right that captivates either in a good or a bad way. That's why sometimes, to a certain degree, everybody being on the same page, at least on the blueprint side of the choreo, really helps tell your story. Now, you don't have to be the squeaky clean, super like robotically clean choices or movement quality. You don't have to have that in your group, but everyone needs to kind of be on the same page on what their role and responsibility is with the blueprint choreo that they're given, in order for me to appreciate what you're even trying to show me, right? And it also shows a certain degree of respect to your choreographer, that you like their stuff enough that you want to be a good steward of their own perspective in it, because it's a collaboration. It's not I'm going to give you this information, do what you want with it. It should be a collaboration. I'm giving you this content that should complement what your track is, and we're going to marry them together and create something beautiful. It takes a village to do these types of tracks. It's not just the boys. It's the team. It's whoever helps with the composition. It's the lyricism, and it helps with the movement direction, the cleaning, the choreographing, the manager, like the manager side of things, the management of the group. Like, it takes a village to be able to create things like this. It's not just, okay, run it from the top. It's not that simple. And so I love the fact that I can even talk about these things, because it's just so awesome to really see that. I love the accent there. They take it accented. Well, they took the accent up, and then they accented through a texture, boom, as a rebound to create a nice motion there. Hold on, what did they do? They hit it through with the leg, boom, and they kick it out speedy quick. Then they cross over, really nice and strong. They rotate through, boom, take that arm. My feature's the only one who deviates, says something different. Love that choice. Hitting it through. Then we do step, step, step with left. Oh my God. And the pull, pull. Amazing. Then we pick it up. Boom. Really love the fullness there. Great energy here. Vroom, vroom. I like how they're letting those triceps kind of navigate. Not really, I mean, yeah, you can say elbows, but if you want more tension and power, you can't just think elbow or joints. You have to think about muscle groups surrounding. So I would even say, I would tell people to use their triceps, which is what it looks like here because there's a lot of resistance in play. It's not just movement. Cool. And I love that right there. He allowed his body to get out of the space to let his arms have room. That was so full, and it matches that high note so effectively. It feels so ta-da, like it's just, when you hear people hit that note, you just see them create this openness. And so for him to create that with his movement quality is very well done and complementary to the center. Cool. Firework. And I like having our two that are up and one of them down in the lower level, and you have everybody extending out. Really feels like they're yearning for something bigger than themselves. Then from there they go yearn, then they accent with that bass, that percussion, and that assists them to get up. And then I think what they're doing is like pretty speedy quick feet, right? Yeah, boom, dee 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 dee, and then you hear this doo 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 that we're building up with the track. Yeah, doon 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 doon, which is what you hear. It's like that bass that there's like the little pedal that you can hit, and it hits that bass on a drum kit is what that feels like. And so they're using the feet because the bass is, a lot of times you can use your feet to make that sound happen. That's what they're doing to help build up the energy with an extra hinge. Then here's your kick. When they're throwing it, notice this is different. What did I say? It's the power of threes, right? Or the repeatability. This is a completely different chorus that we're seeing here. There's subtlety, boom. I love the quickness of that, and the arms are really nice. The throw here, boom, and then allowing that shoulder to get out of the way. Really cool. Hit, hit. They take that arm up, throwing it away, and then we take it all the way through. What did they do with their hips just then? Oh, so what they did is it does look like they're doing some form of hip ISO. I don't believe that's the case. There's a chance that they're pushing. They did a weight transfer is what I think is what happened there. They hit it through, boom, so they have their weight over on the right side. Then it goes left, they ball change it. Then they bring it in, using the arm to complement, creating a swivel. Then they take, all their weight is in their left side. Then they have this moment, so they're taking the weight's on the left leg, and they end up catering more weight to the right, but it's accented. Boom. So they're traveling the weight through the body, and then they shove it over to the back on the right side. So I don't think it's the hip that's isoing. I think they're hinging the hip. They're hinging the hip to help with the weight shift, is what it looks like to me. I would have to try it. I don't know if my body is so sore right now, but at least at this point, maybe I'll do an and-team choreo, but I'm going to be very real. This is a complete side note. So yes, I do a lot of dance covers, specifically with marathon groups. I do a lot more with those. Here's what happens is when I get exposed to a choreo that's really, really clean, part of me is a little bit insecure about trying it because I'm a perfectionist and I don't have the same implicit movement quality that they do with each other. And so I'm not really going to look the same as them because my training was different and what my body is normally used to sitting in, and the type of polyrhythms and how I personally execute them is going to look different. I get insecure that I'm going to be criticized harshly for not looking the exact same because I criticize myself in that sense a lot of times, which could be a little bit of a TMI. Like I am a perfectionist, and I do try to be okay if I don't look exactly like them, because I know the beauty is just sharing the art of dance and being able to engage in the choreo in an empathetic way. Like I understand that, but it is harder. It's easier said than done is kind of my main point. So all that to say, as much as I'm tempted to want to learn this, part of me really is very shy to. I may wait until if I ever like watch all of their discography, I may make Patreon vote for me, and then I'll just do whatever they tell me to. That's kind of what happens a lot of times, but I digress. I don't know if you guys really even cared about that. My apologies if you're like, Jess, we don't care about your dance side. Okay, that's totally fine. Live your life. Some people just like the dance cover, some people like the analysis, some people like both. I like doing both, so here we are. But anyway, moving on from here, the action there, boom, so full with that snap down. I did feel like a subtle fixed point at that point. Boom. Yeah, they hit it, boom, and they made that arm a fixed point by using the shoulder and isolating the joint to make it stay where it was. I love that choice. Then they swing it through. Love that. Oh, you know what? That little swing through, I don't know, was it 17 and Rock With You? They have a swing similar to that, and maybe that's what was equating in my head to kind of justify what it reminded me of. I don't know. I'm not saying it's a plagiarism case whatsoever. I'm saying there's like an overlap in this type of swing of, I've seen it in something that is of a similar type of genre, I guess, is my point. But I love this. They drop it down, boom, this part, oh my God. They all go different directions, but the dynamic is the same, and that's why it works. So they all make boom, 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 boom. The fringe is fringing. I love it. Boom, 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 boom. All different directions. And then my main feature in that moment, what does he do with his hand? He goes dun, 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 dun. So he goes side, side, down, and he takes his hand, brings it up, really cool, and they go subtle, and then boom, we all reset, and he shoves his chest, well, not really, he like leans back aggressively to accent that hand front to really lock in with what the rest of the members are doing. And then from there, boom, boom, and it matches his tone. And I talked about this, I will talk about it here, and I'm sorry if I say that pretty often. I do talk about a lot of toolkit things in a lot of these videos, and I just don't know if this is somebody's first video or 150th. I don't like sounding like a broken record, so that's why I kind of warn or preface this of I am aware I have said this before. But in that context, whenever choreography like that or musicality or textures are done onto tone, a lot of times I normally see it in a dance competitive sense that is isolated from the music, not performers. Because what happens is the more content you put on a tone or a rhythm pattern, the less that they can deviate from it. Because what ends up happening is if he can't hit that note or those sequence of notes in that way, moving forward, if they go live and there's no backtrack to help him on that, then that movement quality is going to get lost in translation in the musicality front because it's specifically accenting the essence of the tone in that moment. So he has not only a physical responsibility to captivate in stage presence, but also in matching tone through singability, which makes it harder on your feature, but all the more impressive that a choreographer wanted that. They said yes, and they committed in this way. I think it's so fascinating, and I love seeing it in the K-pop, J-pop, global pop scene. It's very, very enjoyable, and it makes me admire the group as a whole a lot more because they're not shying away from risk-taking. That is a risk, the more you do that. And I don't feel like it's talked about enough. I just admire it, and I'm always impressed when a choreographer wants to go for it too, because they're putting themselves on the line subtly for that as well, instead of taking the safer route on just going percussion. Man. And they take it once again, nice little subtle tone shift, so that's another tone expectation. And then we go, he swings it around, really nice to have him exit into a really clean formation. And then right here, then he goes left. And so notice the rotation is down, but they snap the head up. Normally I see people go down with it, whether it's a head ISO or look down, because it matches the direction of the rotation, but that's not what happened. The accent is down, but they went the opposite way. So fun. That's like a really subtle way of, you know, when your prediction fails, Bodman area 47, that part of your brain, the prediction, the semantic side of understanding linguistics or language of the body is what we would equate this to, right? So my pattern maker is saying, okay, I'm expecting this to happen. I'm expecting it to go down, and it doesn't. It goes up, but it's committed so well and it's clean. I end up liking it, and it makes me feel like I learned something. And we're learning creatures, and so that is something that I am such a fan of, is the fact that I feel like I've learned so much by watching this. And I hope I've been helpful in helping you uncover some new fascinating things about this that you may not have realized. This is amazing. This is so cool. And then we take it up, boom, and then we're going the other way. Ooh. Magic. Cool. We go reset to the side. And then they go to the other side. So they go on this side, boom, boom, and then they have that nice iconic moment where it's offbeat, and then they go to the other side. And it goes here over to the side, nice, da da da. So now it's more in a clump, so that's very similar to the first two courses, right? Just different formation. I love it when it's structured this way. We're tying it together. It's our conclusion of the choreo. Such a fan of it. Little ball change down. They take that knee up, hit it down, throw, whoo, get them. Then we come back in. Love the choice with the chest with the pull. Your feature is facing us, no one else's. Head boom, and they go bang, bang, and makes it, even though the sound dropped out, he goes bang, bang. They all accent and help carry the weightiness of that bang. He takes it dun, dun. They take the leg, they prop it up like they're about to slam it on the ground, which they do. You can see it by the camera, but how they revved it and how they all pushed it to the ground makes sense. They throw the arm, dun, dun, and they finish letting the arms just angstingly like be there and exist. Yes, they should be out of breath. I would have been shocked if they just stood there not looking like they're about to fall over. Oh my God, that was such a joy for me to watch and navigate through and be able to just figure out different ways of wording what was just so freaking cool about that. Thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you Patreon Lauren for the recommendation. And I do have one other reaction requester that requested Team. They technically did first, but because of the two, I just went to the one that was earlier. So the one that I'm about to look at is going to be a little bit later or recent. So I am so excited to just look at another routine to see what movement quality overlaps are we going to be encountering. I'm just so curious, and this was so impressive on so many different levels for a Gen 5 group. I mean, Gen 5's been coming in hot on the dance complexity and the justification of synchronicity lately, and so it doesn't surprise me, but just how it made me feel is what surprised me. I wasn't expecting that at all, and I'm just curious if is it the group or is it just the track in isolation? We'll find out soon enough. If you want to see more Team, there's a chance I may have more by the time this comes out. I don't know, but I am having so much fun. This was awesome. Once again, my name is Jess, and I will catch you on the flip side. Bye.